Welcome back to my beautiful balcony in Cologne, and this is what summer looks like on the Rhine. I'm glad the sun is shining today, because today I'm going to talk about a very controversial topic in the Line6 Helix community. I'm going to talk about the stock caps. There is much debate about these stock caps. Many people say IRs, third-party IRs, they're so much better, but many people are very strongly into the Line6 Helix stock caps and say, oh no, we don't need IRs. And I can see arguments for both sides, and I'm not going to repeat them here. But I have to say a few words about my position. I use mostly IRs, I have to admit, but I have IRs of a very few caps, the bread and butter caps, like a Marshall T75 loaded cap or something like that. And sometimes if I don't have an IR for a specific cap I need for a specific recording or gig, I'm not going to buy that just for one gig or one recording session. I'm not going to take a similar IR either. That's not going to yield the same results. If I don't have an IR in my small collection of IRs, I use the stock caps. If I need it oftentimes, I'm going to buy an IR of that cap. But of course, you don't need everything as an IR. Well, you have to get used to the Helix stock caps. You have to know how to dial them in. Well, that's not self-explanatory. It's not easy either, but you can get good results with the Helix stock caps. I'm not saying they're better than an IR. I'm not saying they're the same as an IR. Helix stock caps are in part IRs with some enhancement technologies. It's just, I want to show you how I dial in the stock caps. And I think the results I get are cool. I can use them. Yeah. Sometimes I'll still take the IR, of course. Well, having said that, how do I go about dialing in my Helix stock caps? Well, one thing I really like about the Helix that it is not removed from the real world, in a sense that you have to operate it totally different than you would use a real amplifier and a real cap. It has got connections with the real world, and you can take your real world experience with gear, with certain techniques you use to microphone that gear, and transport it into the Line6 Helix. And that's what that was my approach to the stock caps. That was my approach to a lot of stuff in the Line6 Helix, and it is working, and that is really cool because it makes everything intuitive. I'm going to demonstrate that by dialing in one of, the bread and butter tones in the guitar world. We're going to dial in a Marshall Plexi crunch sound with Greenback 25 speaker emulation. Before I'm going to do that, just shortly what guitar I'm using, because you will not see the guitar when I'm dialing in the tone, as you will see HX Edit. So I'm going to show it now so you have an idea of which guitar I've connected and why it sounds like it sounds like. Okay, that is the guitar I will be using. That is a Chauvel San Dimas reissue built in 2006. Pickup combinations, humbucker, single coil. Single coil, it does have a flat rose. Yeah, I'm a kid of the 80s. And of course a pointy headstock. But it is, I love this guitar, it's a great guitar. So that is what you're going to be hearing. And next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take you to HX Edit and show you how I dial in the stock caps and the Line6 Helix. Okay, here we are in HX Edit. And as you can see, I have basic blocks already selected, such as the amp, which is not very surprisingly the Brit Plexi Bright. You see that I've took the controls back a little bit compared to with what I come up with, but I always do that when using the Plexi, and we want a crunch sound and not a full distorted sound and everything. So these are my standard settings on the Brit Plexi. Bass a little bit rolled back, mid and treble about halfway up, and a little bit more presence. Yeah, that's nothing special. Okay, so here I have a little bit of compression, the LA Studio comp with standard settings, and in parallel I have a little room so that it sounds a little bit more realistically when I dial in the stock cap. Okay, so we need the stock caps. Here they are. And first thing I do is I turn them to dual. because we're going to use two microphones on the same cap. As I mentioned in the introduction to the video, I'm going to take a real-world approach to dialing in the stock caps, which is similar to the process I use when I'm miking up a 4x12 Marshall. I use, or if I can, I use two microphones. I use a ribbon mic and a dynamic mic in combination. The reason is that the ribbon mic is kind of the foundation of my tone. A ribbon mic is darker than a dynamic mic, so the ribbon mic is going to lay out the bass and lower mids, and well, it is of course a very fine kind of microphone, so it catches the whole spectrum very nicely and detailed. So it is the foundation of my tone. And then I go about and add a dynamic microphone to get exactly the tone I want, because a dynamic microphone, well, I always think that they use a little bit of dirt, a little bit of grit to the signal of the very hi-fi ribbon mic. But maybe they just add something which is guitar specific, which makes the guitar a little bit more nasty, and that is what you want with a crunch tone or with an electric guitar. I'm going to choose, of course, the Greenback 25s, and I'm going to choose them, not very surprisingly either, on both caps, but the second one is going to be quiet for the moment. So we here have the Greenback 25. It comes up with a 57 dynamic, but I told you I would use a ribbon mic, so I'm turning this over. I sometimes use the 121 ribbon, I sometimes use the 160 ribbon. First thing I do is, well, which do I like more? Personal taste. Let's compare. That's the 121. So let's go for the other one, the 160. As you can see, the 160 focuses the upper mids a little bit better than the 121, which yields an overall more balanced signal. Since we are talking about foundations here, I will go for the 121. And I think this is very common to do it that way. Okay. Next thing we have to talk about is the distance. Ribbon mics are usually placed more far apart from the speaker, but I prefer really closed up speakers. But this is my personal preference. We're going to play with that parameter in the end of the video anyways, so you can see how it affects the sound. I always go for a distance of 1.5 inches for the ribbon. That is maybe something you would not do in the real world, because ribbon microphones are susceptible to high sound pressure. And if you turn it up really, 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 really loud, you might damage the ribbon microphone. But we are in the Helix, so nothing can happen. So let's close mic or 4x12 Marshall with a ribbon mic. The other one comes with the 57 dynamic, and I'm going to use that. But, well, let's see. First of all, let's mute the ribbon mic. And look at the dynamic mics a little bit. I use either the 57 or the 421 dynamic. This, of course, is again my personal taste. You might find other dynamic microphones cooler than these. Experiment, yeah? But let's see how they sound. That's the 57 dynamic. Yeah, that's the 421 dynamic coming up in a second. And the main difference to my ears is that the 57 dynamic gives you more highs, more upper mids, and the 421 dynamic focuses very much on the upper mix. The 421 thereby sounds a little bit more nasty than the 57. When dialing in stock caps, I have noticed that to my ears, the 57 sounds better with British style amps, and that the 421 sounds a little bit better with American style amps. Again, this is my personal preference. Your results might vary. Here again, I'm going for the 57, and as I would do in the real world, that gets very close to the grill, minimum distance of 1 inch. So that is now basically the setting. I'm going to turn up the ribbon mic again, so you can listen to both mics. That is the basic combination of these two mics, and what I'm doing next is I'm going to mix them. As the ribbon is my foundation, I set that to 0 dB, unity gain, and I'm going to dial back the dynamic. I always go in a bisection method to find the right settings. I start at minus 12 dB and I see how that sounds. That is cool, but we don't have the little gritty stuff I was talking about very much going on here. So I go over to minus 8 dB. That is a whole lot of that gritty stuff. You might want to use that in a recording. It's a usable tone, but I prefer a little bit less. So I'm going for the middle of those two, minus 10. That is close to what I want. I'm going to try out minus 11 next. That's a little bit, it's not enough really. So minus 10.5 would be the next point. Yeah, that's exactly what I want. And here we are, that's the stock cap dialed in. Neck pickup action. Might be a little bit bright, but well, I would actually now head over to the tone stack of the amplifier and correct it there. That is my way of, well, on the fly dialing in the stock caps. And now I want to show you the other parameters. First thing I was talking about was what happens if we move the ribbon mic. I think, well, the 121 is a model of a Royer microphone, and the recommended distance from the speaker is about 6 inches. And I'm dialing that in now. And if you listen to that, it sounds like that. That's also a usable tone, of course. But I personally prefer closed up miking. Yeah, and that is more my sound. If you like the other one, well, it gives you more highs. It breathes a little bit more. If you like that, well, that is your cup of tea. If you actually work with mics which are placed further back in the room, you will want to either increase the level of the ribbon mic or decrease the level of the dynamic mic, because in the Line6 Helix, I have noticed mics get quieter when they are moved back in the room, which is, well, quite a cool feature. I'm not using the early reflections for a very simple reason. I do not like that sound. I'm turning them up. They sound like that. And I think they sound artificial. What early reflections do is they add room size to the virtual microphone. And I think it's very hard to add a virtual room to a virtual microphone. I wouldn't use these. I would either, tweak the reverb here a little bit or use something in my DAW altogether. Okay, so now I think we've got a usable tone using stock caps. It sounds very much like a Marshall tone, crunch Marshall tone with a super strat. Now you should know how to dial in the stock caps on your Line6 Helix. If you've liked the video, if you've liked the workshop, well, subscribe my channel, drop me a like. I would be very happy if you did so. And, well, have fun playing guitar meanwhile.